Thank you for joining me for my review of the 2018 video game Distance. Now, it almost feels silly to say that this will be spoiler-free, but there is some stuff that you could hypothetically spoil in this, and I will not be doing so. The video will be for, let's see, I guess let's say PG-13 and up. I think that's roughly what the game is as well. And yeah, I absolutely freaking love this game. So before I go any further, I do want to make clear, just so nobody wastes, feels like their time was wasted watching this video. I am not going to talk that much about multiplayer. The what's it called? The level editor, and I feel like there was one more thing, huh? Yeah, maybe those were them. Yeah. Now the right or the yeah. There's a good reason I can't talk about every single or even the majority of the user created maps, and that's that there's over 4,000, and that's not even an exaggeration. Yeah, these days, like, I don't, right now I'm not planning on spending on that much time um, on this one game that, yeah, usually if I'm going to spend an enormous amount of time, it's going to be almost exclusively on like the developer created content. But with that said, um, this game features car parkour, or carkour, if you will, and I hope you will. Yeah, I don't know. Should I just end the video there? No, I'm going to give more detail, but if that doesn't sell you on it, yeah, that is a major part of the appeal here. So I am not going to get too much into the plot. I will just say there is one I am not too ashamed to admit. I had to Google after finishing to see what it was. Well, there were some details, at least, that I was unclear on. Once I read it, it was like, oh, okay, no, I did pick that up. Okay. And the, yeah. What I will say is I liked the plot, including the ending, and let's see. I guess I'll just say there's an aspect to the player character that I quite liked. But yeah, this is not really one where there's a lot of like character interaction and such. And the some of the storytelling is that there's this voiceover every so often. Yeah, I guess that explains it. It's not, well, there's also some visual stuff. Yeah. So, okay, the one of the big things here is that this takes the action platformer a genre that I have been playing for 3 decades, and I absolutely love. And I'm always looking for, you know, just new ones that I can really sink my teeth into. And then every so often, you find one like this, where it makes the inspired decision to combine that subgenre with the racing game subgenre. And it's like, I mean, just it's hard to put into words. I'm gonna try, but the propulsive nature of the latter really helps bring out some increased intensity in the former. It's already platformers, that genre is already very challenging and can get really, really intense. And yeah, this just goes so much further, that, yeah. Basically, you are controlling a car, and at the very, very start, you are basically just asked to drive on a flat surface, and you have to make some turns to follow the road. And sometimes there will be, you know, an obstacle or two in your path that, you have to find out how to, how are you gonna, well, survive that, So Trump's second term so far has provided a lot of, like, training to get into that mindset. Basically, not long after, they start throwing curveballs, sometimes literally. Sometimes the path you're driving on curves, so you will be wall riding, maybe driving upside down, maybe one, then the other, then the first, etc. Then there are gaps in the road that you have to jump. Sometimes this is when you're already driving on the side or upside down. And then sometimes maybe you have to jump and then go from driving upside down to driving right side up. Are you starting to see how this is just like, yeah, wonderful. Yes. And I think, okay, yeah, so a little bit more that I will say. So as soon as you jump your car, there, you can start pitching in one of the four directions, and this enables you to, yeah, go from driving on one, a flat surface that is either horizontal or vertical, to another, and yeah, um, you may not always, but sometimes after if you double jump, it's either going to do the following or say that it can't currently do the following, allow you to fly. And the flight, I've been really fascinated by flight in video games in recent years. So there are games where they just go for the freedom of flight. Just Cause 3, another car stunt game, has flight as freedom. Um, there are some games where they focus on it being very, very tense. This one has this wonderful sort of balance between the two, because basically you have the hypothetically you can fly in any direction you want. Like obviously you're gonna want to if you crash into something, but um, hypothetically you don't have to follow the path, except you can't fly for very long without going through one of these rings. I forget what they're called, so we'll just call them rings. In order to, like, what's the word? I guess like refill some. It's necessary in order to be able to keep going. And if you do fly for, intentionally or otherwise, if you fly for very long without going through one of those rings, it's just gonna close your wings, And wonderfully, and this is what I love about this game, Charlie, if you got enough distance, that there is a flat surface that you could get onto. Yeah, hypothetically, you could go for it. You could try, You might not succeed, but it'll let you try. There is this very compelling sort of, like, technically the game is linear. And I believe I've said before, I think when you're making a platformer, like a real platformer, a lot of the time linearity is just more. There's a focusing aspect to, like, linearity forces you to focus. Open world doesn't. Yeah. And as much as I love open world games, I'm playing Hitman 2016 right now. I love how much, like, it's, I don't know, open world, it's certainly a sandbox. There's a tremendous amount of freedom there. But, when you compare Prince of Persia, a franchise I love, to Assassin's Creed, a franchise I played for 5 games, yeah, just, there's some good things about the Assassin's Creed games, and it is fun. I do appreciate the freedom of, being able to run and jump across rooftops and such, but it's just not as, it doesn't get to you in quite the same way, at least not in those. I suppose hypothetically maybe there is one out there that does. Yeah. Now, I think that almost covers. So I talked about, right. So one more feature that there is here is that the oh, two more actually. Yeah. Okay. So one of them, not a huge surprise. Turbo, essentially. And I am not the most experienced with racing games. I've played a bunch. I mean, you can check out the shameless plug in the description box. There's a link to a Google document that has where I've ranked every single video game that I've completed. So you can see, I forget the exact count, but it's not a huge, like, it's pretty ridiculous comparing the number of racing games I've played to completion, or, in a lot of cases played at all, to, like, FPS or platformer, like, you can see the kind of genres I gravitate towards on that list. But I've played enough to know, yeah, Turbo, not every single racing game has it, but some of them do. And it is consistent across a bunch of the ones that do. Yeah, it's very driving fast can get you can close distance in a shorter amount of time, but you have to be very careful. It can make it tougher to make turns, for example. Um, yeah, you have to be very careful about it, and it could actually end up losing you time if you are not sufficiently careful with it, such as if you end up overcorrecting on a turn, or actually driving into part of the level. But the with this one, it's an additional part of the platforming challenge, because sometimes a jump is going to require you to use turbo. Sometimes using turbo is a bad idea, and you get a sense for it. It's with a lot of video games, you're learning to walk again, and that is still the case here. Um, but yeah, I really quite enjoyed the way that right and okay, so turbo also, you can essentially engage it whenever you are driving on a flat surface of any kind. However, after several, I didn't count because the game's too intense for me to, but after some amount of seconds, it's going to because it wears down your vehicle, so you can't just do it forever. Um, and yeah, other than that, you have. I guess I should just briefly note. I've seen some say that it's a bad idea to play this on a keyboard. You should have a joystick, and I do agree that I would probably. This is the kind of thing where a twin stick is ideal. Um, on a keyboard, you're using WASD to pitch, and the uh, arrow keys to um, for the normal controls. I can imagine, twin stick, it would probably have been left and right, stick, which, yeah. Personally, I was, it took a little bit of getting used to, but I would say that it is the kind of thing where it might be worth trying, and if you just can't, find a cheap. If it just doesn't work with a keyboard for you, find a cheap twin stick. But yeah, one more thing that it has is I don't even know exactly what to call this function. On the keyboard, it's the Q key. What the Q key does is get people really, you know, excited about the idea of capturing some of one of the worst kinds of criminal known to man, and then suddenly someone powerful who, how do I say this without, yeah, let's just say, suddenly some really powerful people who used to, really love Q, they start saying, I don't know, is everybody still talking about this creep? What are we doing here? But in this game, what Q does is make you move towards the like let's see. I guess you could say it's like backing up, but instead of backwards, it's going downwards. And sometimes it's necessary for the platforming. Sometimes it is like it might enable you to save, if you yeah. Because the thing is, as soon as you pitch, the direction of Q changes. So if you jump, not always, but sometimes, if you jump too far to the side, if you're really quick, you can pitch towards the other side and then cue the way down. Like, just, and again, it manages this balance of, the linearity that provides focus and increased tension and this sense of freedom. And I think that might more or less... So that's basically all the things you can do with the car. I think, yeah, this is one of those, it's difficult, I don't really have, I'm not currently able to for various reasons, to put video in, gameplay footage in these videos. If what I've said doesn't make a lot of sense, try watching some gameplay footage, that might help give you an idea of how it all works. Now, that pretty well covers the yeah, so I definitely do want to talk at least a little bit more about flight. So it's one of those things, the amount of flight you get to do in this game, since it's some of the most fun, you can end up feeling like, oh, isn't there more flight in the game? Which, I mean, you can make your own level if you're, if you have the skill for it. And I can imagine among the literal thousands, there probably are a number of levels that allow flight. I've played several, but yeah, um, I didn't think, technically there's not too little, because it's one of those things, you got to be very careful with that. Um, if you have something that's just unbelievably fun, and then you deliver very little of it, people might be more frustrated, especially if it's like all over the marketing, for example. But yeah, I I've made my point. Moving on, other than what I've already mentioned about flight, yeah, I suppose it's probably not a surprise to. I guess I should also just briefly note, you can close the wings on by jumping again. Um, if you believe that you would be able to, catch it in time, and you want just a few seconds of it recovering from flight, yeah. But yeah, maybe it's not a surprise. Some of the flight there, and that's one. I'm so bad at finishing my sentences before I move on. Okay, one of the things with flight is that there are, I don't want to give away how many. I'll just say there's at least one just truly spectacular bit where you are flying and there are a lot of things that you could crash into. So you have to very carefully guide. Now that you can essentially, like, once you're flying, I think it might be a full 360 degrees of freedom you have. It's just that it's forcing you to focus by the what's the word, by the rings, but yeah, you having to make these very narrow, flying through small gaps and such, just holy crap. And that's part of why I feel like, as much as, I wouldn't have said no to at least a little bit more flight, but that's also, leave them wanting more. Yeah, the fact that we got stuff like that helps me feel, happy with with the amount we got. So, not much more to say about features, but I think this is a good place to put. So basically, and this is where I gotta start being a little more specific. So, because there are, well, no, I guess it's, okay. I think I'll, later on. Yes. Moving on. So, yes. Um, it varies how far apart they are, but in levels there are these checkpoints, and a number of them are marked by one of the rings, which does make it important to note. The rings when you fly, the rings that are not attached to any flat surface or around a flat surface, do not count as checkpoints. And you'll know because it says regenerating when you pass through an actual checkpoint. And yeah, having not played all the extra levels, I can't say for sure, but at least I don't think that I found myself respawning, like, for example, midair or upside down or that sort of thing. If there's a difficult jump you have to do that involves at least some, yeah, driving on the side or upside down, I think they pretty much, they at least tend to place a checkpoint before rather than during. And I think that might just about cover. So, right. And the checkpoints will, I already mentioned, regenerating. So if if the nitro that you burnt, it resets your nitro meter. And I think, can you maybe damage your car, like, until you reach a checkpoint if you use too much nitro? I forget, but it's like overheating basically. And I think it's such a pitch perfect way to, handle the nitro. Rather, it's not a pickup, and it's, it's not something you have to earn. It has a cooldown. And yeah, let's see. Just so you are aware, if you leave a level, if you don't complete the level, no matter how far into it you are, you will have to start over rather than start from last checkpoint the next time you play. Does that make it sound like I got burnt by that? Because I kind of did, but it was okay. I had a feeling that was what was going to happen. Yeah. The camera is permanently centered. Essentially, the camera is stuck. Some fool went and glued it to the back of the car. It's slightly behind, third person perspective, similar to, I don't know, Max Payne if he were a car, which he isn't, outside of my upcoming fanfic. And that's such a good decision for them to make, because that means that as, like, as much as there is like you're twisting around and you're flying through the air and all this stuff, you can always tell how, like where is the what's the call? But where's the bottom of the car uh, pointing towards, So yeah, I think, I mean, I can imagine some people still do get dizzy playing this or did. Um, that helps a lot, certainly. And yeah, I think if I put myself up to just playing, all 4,000 some levels, I might feel like, okay, this is starting to feel like a grind. But as it is, um, I wouldn't really say that it does. There's enough variety, and it feels like you're getting something out of playing. You know, um, yeah, I think that might just about cover. So yeah, I I haven't already said the following, but maybe it's come across somewhat. This is ridiculously refined. Like I I'm trying to describe so much that some people might watch this video and be like, "Oh, doesn't sound like my kind of game." Because like, well, these days I try to describe anyway, but yeah, there are, you know, I can usually find some fault in the things I do videos on, and I swear I'm not trying to like, just I'm not worried about. I think I've made that clear. Some of my takes are not popular. They are. Well, let's see. Is it ice cold if it's unpopular of a take, or is it just that? Oh, it used to be a hot take, but now it's. Wait, are hot takes even popular? I am confused by some internet culture. Anyway, um, no, yeah, just genuinely, I looked and there's just not. I think I'll. There's. I can't really think of a thing that is just pure negative to say about this. But obviously, some of these things, like I can imagine, some people might hear me talking about all the things you have because okay, if it wasn't clear, the things I mentioned, pitch, flight, turbo, you have to master those. If you want to get to the end of this game, you're going to have to get incredibly good at those things. So yeah, I can understand if that. I'm sure there's people who, if you know almost nothing about this, but you just heard, oh, it's like a car racing game that's really popular, like, which is not denigrating racing games. Again, I've played some, but yeah, there's usually not, a lot of them don't have all of this stuff that this one does. But no, it's just like, and this was also, let's see, if I understand correctly, and I might be wrong about this, it seems like this first hit early access in 2014, so 4 years or 3 years change before it was released. Yeah, and that does really show. This is one of those cases. I appreciate, sometimes I forget who it was. Oh, it might have been one or more of the Druffy people who made the point. Listen, a bunch of early access, they're literally just asking you to be unpaid playtesters. Um, with this one, they actually did, you know, put all that feedback to use and end up making something truly just excellent. And I think, I guess there's, I do want to say before I get into the next thing, so this might be the only platformer I've ever played that doesn't make any mistakes in the following, because is one of those things. It's so there's yes, among the mistakes that the subgenre can make. And again, I been playing these like the I guess I don't have to say, but yeah, I've played some from like the 80s or is it 90s? Maybe the first ones were from the 90s, but you know, way back then, and I'm still playing it today. Uh, Overloop, I think, might be the most recent one. That's from like 22, something like that. Yeah, uh, among the mistakes that I see a lot of them, even ones I love, make. The Commander Keen games, for example. Um, Sometimes you can't see if something is safe for you to touch, like if it's maybe even beneficial, like maybe it's a pickup, or if it will harm you. In this, there are no pickups. The only thing, watch for the rings, and basically, other than that, like, yeah, don't crash into it. Like if it's a flat surface, you may be able to drive, on it, but yeah, never crash directly into anything. So if it's not a flat surface, if it's not a road, you could say, if it's not a road that's right side up, upside down, or I don't know, in the middle, whatever it's called, yeah, uh, don't hit it. You know, um, don't fall through a gap. Don't fly or drive way off the road. Um, yeah, and the game, like, they do a really great job. That is one thing. I know some people like to dive into extras immediately. I would personally recommend playing at least a few levels of the campaign so that you, because it explains these things and gives you a place to learn that is not super like intense. Um, yeah, and so yeah, doesn't make that mistake. Um, Another is, are there enough visual indicators? One of the really big ones, and this is one of the things where I understand why some people choose to not play a lot of platformers, but I love them. Distance. Can I make this jump? Oh, no, I couldn't. I don't know how I was supposed to tell from looking. I kind of just had to either try to make the jump or I guess just be scared off by the fact that I might not be able to make it. Um, yeah, I am genuinely amazed that. I mean, okay. So obviously, I haven't played. Let's see. I think I played like one of the four some thousand of the. Let's see. They're called workshop levels. Made by Level Editor, and some of them are made by they're called Refract, the developer. A lot of them obviously aren't. I did play one, um, and yeah, so can't speak for all of them, but Yeah, I'm not sure I would say that there's even one. Certainly there isn't in the campaign. Yeah, I guess I should say I haven't played all of the additional ones yet. I don't know. I just first I looked at the fact that there's 4,000, and then I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to play all of them. And like a few days later, I decided I would play the ones that are already in, there's not 4,000 that you can download. There's also some that are already in the game. I played one of the 4,000 that you download, and I've pretty much decided I'm probably going to play the ones that come with the game, But by the time I made the decision to do that, I had started recording this video. But yeah, I played a few. What can I say? I kind of feel like once I see the end credits roll on a game, I feel like, well, I guess it's okay for me to review it now. I mean, I've seen the entire story now. I feel like that's got to be the idea for them to be rolling credits. But the of the ones I saw, there genuinely wasn't a time where there's just no visual indicator. It's just that there are times where you get almost no time to. And it is also, it's a game where it's not like against the law or something to just replay a little bit. Um, Levels tend to have checkpoints. Some of them they get further apart compared to earlier. There is an additional mode that has levels that don't have checkpoints, but they're very, very short. So, yeah. Um, if you do fail one of them, when you do fail one of them, you don't have to do a significant chunk. Essentially, that's part of why I mentioned the thing about, well, it doesn't save, but that's also, I didn't get super far into a level before I took a break, and then when I went back, I said, oh, okay, no, it really does put you back to the start of the level. Um, but yeah, so, if you do a lot of really challenging stuff and you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that again, try to finish the level. Don't leave the level without, yeah. But that does more or less cover... I think I'll just briefly note, so, I already mentioned, huge fan of Prince of Persia. Uh, Not to get snobby, but I did play the original as, a 7-year-old. I probably shouldn't have been. It's kind of gory and graphic, but I don't know. I came out all right, I think. Um, let's see. The next time I play one of those, and I am, I have wish listed the most recent one. Um, Gonna need a new computer for it, but that was already in the cards. But yeah, does that make it sound like I'm one of those who like constantly buy a new? That's not the case at all. I pretty much try to wait until the hardware has just advanced so much that it's, my current computer is starting to be slow or that sort of thing. Anyway, uh, but yeah, I hope that one can match. It sounds amazing from what I've heard. It's absolutely amazing. The Lost Crown, I think it's called, and I love the return to 2D. I think they got some good stuff with 3D, but not all of the stuff that happened there was great. But yeah, this thing of so in a lot of these platformers, you basically you get to take a break after one really tough platforming bit, you know. Not necessarily a long one, but you know, you can stand and just like calm back down. You know, you can have your character stand while you, the player, calm back down. And then you have this where, like, I mean, I guess if you hold down Q, you'll still stick to the road, but just keep in mind, if you slow down right after one platforming bit, you may be wasting, you may want to keep driving, not necessarily speeding, not always, but keep driving, and then up ahead there might be another part where you have to do another platforming bit, and if you stop the car right after one platforming bit, you might not be able to get enough speed to close the distance, you know. And that brings me to so the last leg. It has three legs for some reason of the yeah, the things you really want to be careful with when it comes to platformers. And this is, again, like, love the Prince of Persia games. I do think pretty much, yeah, all the most recent ones I've played have at least a little bit issue with controls. I won't spend forever on it, but for example, you know, once they added the wall run, sometimes you're gonna be trying to wall run to the side and he'll run upwards instead. Uh, Honestly, that's enough. You know, that's not the only time where yeah, that's enough. Moving on. This, like, I don't even, I get, yeah, I was gonna say, I don't even know how you get here. I guess this many years of development. Maybe this is like, maybe more games should have a little bit longer game development cycle, you know? The controls are genuinely so incredibly responsive and tight. And like, the moment that I in this game started doing the pitch thing, I was super concerned that it's like, you know, I was thinking, wow, this is going to take me a while to get used to. And then it kind of didn't. Like, I got there in yeah, um not terribly long time, for, you know. And yeah, like, just, yeah. Um I think the yeah, I guess I may have pretty much said, 'cause I already explained the other details of the controls. But yeah, that is, you know, that is a very substantial area where a lot of platformers have issues. And yeah, so I mentioned that you can sometimes take a breather, but, you know, if, like, okay, hypothetic, let's say you really want a breather, get to a checkpoint. You know, that's what I would say, because after that, yeah. And also, this has something that I wish more games did. There's a reset button. You can press T, and it will put you back to the most recent checkpoint, which will sometimes be the start of the level. Because yeah, there are times where you can essentially get into a spot where it's like, well, I'm not gonna like die right away, but I also kind of feel like I can't really get out of, you know. And then sometimes it'll be, yeah, sometimes the reason why you'll want to reset is because you're worried you're not going to be able to get to the regenerating checkpoint, and your car, um, Okay, the good news is we know where all the pieces are. They're just not stuck to each other anymore. This game features, I already mentioned there's like hazards you have to avoid, and sometimes it's just, well, if you're not, you might drive directly headfirst into something, blow up, reset. But some of the things are these really, really big uh, circular saws or lasers that and it's one of those things, like early on they might be stationary, so it's like, okay, I just gotta drive to the side to get around. Later they start moving. So not only, and sometimes they'll do this wonderful thing where there's several seconds where you can see it up ahead moving. So you have to regulate your speed and determine, okay, when I get to the spot where they could cut the crap out of me, is it going to be, what spot is it going to be? Where is it safe for me to be? And like sometimes it'll even like sort of chase you for just a little bit. It's not like ongoing, but yeah, if you get cut, yeah, you can you can survive some cuts. Um, Sometimes you'll want to swallow your pride and press reset if too much of your car is gone, because like, okay, hypothetically, technically it's still moving, but like you're not gonna get very far in that thing. um yeah, but it's fully regenerated, and it doesn't like cost some kind of in-game currency, much less real world currency, thank goodness. But yeah, when you are in the zone in this game, you can just speed through. You're driving really fast, you're going between the different surfaces, you are dodging all of the traps, and just it's difficult to put into words how freaking satisfying it is to just be able to, and sometimes it'll take multiple tries, and then by the end you got there, and it just feels so freaking good. Like, that's another thing. Some okay, I guess there's four legs to the it's not a tripod of stuff that can, you know stuff you want to try to avoid with platformers. Although I suppose this is in general for challenging games. Try to make it sufficiently fun and engaging so that it doesn't just feel like a relief when a player clears an area, but actually feels like, oh wow, I freaking earned that. That was amazing. I want more, kind of thing. And just like, yeah, the one more thing that I definitely do want to make sure to mention. So, I hmm. No, yeah, this is where that goes. Yes. So the atmosphere here. There's this very, very thick atmosphere of like cyberpunk, with this like, pumping bass soundtrack that just like I could listen to outside of playing this game. That's not always the case, and just it really puts you right in the zone. And like, I've seen at least one person say that they were reminded of Tron, and that let's see, that does that go for music as well? It certainly goes for the visuals, because there is this like, sometimes certain things will not have a tremendous amount of detail, but there will be like strong neon, and yeah, I mean, when something might hurt you in this, it might be bright orange, or not bright, but strong, distinct orange. And the stuff that helps you has this cooling blue-green kind of thing going on. So I don't think it was like accidental. I think it was, because like, okay, I get that, good, it green in a video game means good, but orange is not always evil. A lot of the time it's like red or black or that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, just you're driving through these installations, and you just get this sense that the world around you is alive. Like, you ultimately only really get to move through it. That's not a criticism. That's, like, I'm not sure I've ever played a video game where you could truly, like, there wasn't anything that was, quote unquote, just there for you to, like, get a sense of what the world looks like. Um, and in this, there are these teleportation portals that you can drive through, get a burger, and you'll drive through and come out the other side, basically immediately, and you can see the other side through the you visually, the portal is like it's another circle. I like those in this game, and yeah, when you look into the circle on the inside of that circle, you can see what you're going to be teleporting into. And yeah, like at first it seemed it seemed like, oh, it's kind of cool, like world building thing. This is a universe where there is teleportation. But then they started using it in the platforming. So you'll be driving, suddenly you have to go through, you'll be doing some of these, some of the parkour. Suddenly you have to go through a portal. Maybe not long after, there's another portal, and it's just like, yeah, like, it is so exhilarating. It feels like, I don't know, flying, I guess, like, just the you will sometimes get a knot in your stomach, but again, when you actually clear an area, that goes away, and it's in a good way. I mean, if don't play challenging video games if you don't want to sometimes be like, oh wow, this is a lot. Yeah, I think that covers but the but yeah, I thought it was it's one of those things, again, like, nothing in this game feels accidental or random or such. They actually do the cyberpunk atmosphere. Like, obviously, one element is, well, it explains why your car can do all this stuff, because cars can't do that. You really want your car to be impressive. And beyond that, it does also really just, it feels right for the sort of, that's also, if your game lets the player do something that they definitely wouldn't be able to in real life, you got to have some kind of, you know there's you don't have to, like, sit down and explain how can this be, but, like, it's a good idea to try to make other aspects of the game match that. And I'm definitely not someone who says that game should be realistic. Not They don't have to, is what I mean. If you want to make a realistic game, that's great. And play one, that's also great. But if you're telling people that a game is bad because it's not realistic, that's not so great. It's bad. It's very bad. But yeah, I think it's just this, like, a lot of the world that you drive through in this game feels like it needs you to solve the central conflict. And that's, of course, lots of games only with the player's help, because that's kind of the nature of games. Sometimes you'll have one that subverts that, but and certainly there are games where it's not, like I want to say it's called cozy games, that sort of thing. You're not saving the world necessarily. You're just, you know, but yeah, the cyberpunk thing really does, because major thing of cyberpunk is, well, technology's here, but it didn't solve. There's a lot of problems it didn't solve, and just, yeah, like, getting to actually drive through these, you know areas is just amazing. And it's not that everything, the campaign is consistently that, but one of the additional levels in this game, not non-campaign, arcade, one of the arcade modes, is basically like Christmas. So there's like snow falling, and they remixed, crap, I forget what it's called, but it is like a well-known Christmas song. Yeah, they remixed that in the style of the music of this game. It's really quite something. And there's one bit that I feel pretty confident in saying that's Rainbow Road. They made at least part of that level is, yeah. So that's another thing where the literal thousands of additional levels, yeah, you can get creative. You don't have to make it this particular, yeah. uh, it does also, there's a feature where you can change the colors of your car. I think it's 3 different colors you choose, and I'm just gonna make sure if that is, oh, that might be something I have to deal with. Okay, that is definitely something I will have to deal with. Okay, I'm going to try to fill the air, the dead air. So I think I've pretty much said everything about the atmosphere. So I'm okay. I absolutely failed at filling the dead air. Whatever. Yeah. Hope you're still around. Let's see. I think oh, right. I guess I should say nothing bad happened. I hope that didn't sound like really severe when I said I have to deal with it immediately, but was something I had to deal with immediately. Yes. So I think that pretty well covers that. So yeah, the graphics are really great. They Oh, right. That was the color. Yeah, I quite appreciated that it does not let you, like, just ruin what the car looks like. I've seen car games that do, and, like, listen, if it's just for fun, if that's what the player wants, sure, that's. But I do appreciate when a game says, no, we're gonna, you can choose the color, but like, you choose a strong color, and then it gets, like, toned and yeah, turned into something that fits that particular, yeah. uh, and yeah, it's genuinely fun to get to. And they also have a bunch of presets, so if you'd like to change it from the default, but you don't feel like choosing your own specific 3 colors, yeah, you can just go over the presets. And I think that pretty well covers. Yeah, so the graphics, I'm very impressed with the fact that they don't like it doesn't get to be uncomfortable to watch and experience, and yet it conveys this sort of oppressive nature, which again is a big thing in cyberpunk. Visually, I would say this is one of my favorite cyberpunks. Yeah, and I think that brings us. So yeah, the audio, the sound of one of these saws and lasers and such, as you get closer and closer, and maybe even gets sliced by, is just chef's kiss. It's so freaking good. And those are 2 things we've heard a lot in media. And I guess I have pretty much said all that I have to say about the music. It never got like tedious or that was uh, like normally this is not necessarily my kind of music. I don't even know exactly what the genre is called, but yeah, just never happened. I at no point felt, yeah, and I think I've pretty much made it clear that it is challenging, and it is one of those things where, because it is so carefully refined, essentially, how do I say this without being mean? I'll focus on myself to accomplish that. Whenever I failed in this game, it was my own fault. It wasn't the fault of bad game design in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And just gonna okay that. And there we go. Great. So that is settled. Okay. So the yeah, I think um yeah. Let's see. Right. I should note, if you made it this far and you're still like thinking, well, this is too challenging for me. If you have to ask the question, maybe, yeah, it's, I personally think that a fairly decent level of challenge is part of the appeal of platformers. There's other stuff. If I want to, if yeah, if I want something that's not gonna have any chance of just having me like really, this is a lot, uh, um, yeah, there's other stuff that I would play. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where uh, a lot of the time the game is not going to start throwing everything at you before you've had a chance. It's the kind of thing, it understands that it is important when teaching something. This is like the research is in. When you teach something, first you explain the principles. Then if it is something that, like, let's go with math. Then, you explain the principles of how to solve that math problem. Then you give them a fairly easy one that just, yeah, follows the rules you've just set up. then you you know gradually increase the level of what's the word? Yeah, level of challenge of it, and yeah, this game does that. That's again something like, listen, some of my favorite games. Uh, I don't know. So I think some of them might be purposefully bucking those, or did we not know back then? So, off the top of my head, two of my favorite games are Prince of Persia, The Two Thrones. Oh wait, wow, screw that. Yeah, Prince of Persia is just on my mind. Can you tell? Because this game, made me think about, like, wow, it is possible to make something that is that much more. Yeah. Anyway, System Shock 2 and Thief the Metal Age are two of my favorite games. Both of them have things where it's like, okay, you didn't so much like. I kind of had to learn not to do a specific thing by attempting it and then dying. Um, and depending on how I am not too proud to save every so often so that I don't have to restart the entire level when I play one of those games. But when I play Thief games, I mean, well, the fourth one has its own checkpoints, but the yeah. Moving on, I think that might. Yes, but yeah, I've hopefully also made it clear. It is. Yeah, it's it's so fun. Like, so it feels so great to play. I yeah. Uh, I think I'll get into, so I mentioned, I as said at the start, I'm not going to talk that much about multiplayer, but I do want to briefly note, the when I check for multiplayer, there's what's it called, server, you can see servers, and I think I only looked at that once in the right, for yeah, for those who don't watch every single one of these, in case this is, yeah, uh, I review a game a week currently. So in the week that I've been playing this, I think I only did check the one time for the yeah. You can look up servers, and that's another thing. I think every multiplayer game that should let you both look at servers and quick join. When I looked at servers, there were two completely empty servers. And the fact that both of them, like, I think the lower one, said that yeah, it said 0 out of 12 players, and the other one said like 0 out of 20 players or something. So I was thinking, well, that would take forever if I'm the first one to join one of those for to be filled up. But then one of the other days, just kind of off a whim, I was kind of thinking, well, probably won't, since the servers are evidently empty, but I might as well try. So I clicked quick join. I was in a match. Like, it found a match within seconds, and I was playing that match in maybe 15 seconds from me clicking quick join. With that said, that match only had one other player. So yeah, I can imagine, and that's like, that's not really dissing the game, that a 7-year-old game doesn't currently have a massive player base. Uh, Hypothetically, if someone watching this is aware, did they move on to a similar game? In which case, which case, because I would very much like to play. I don't necessarily want a sequel to this, but a spiritual successor. Yeah, right. I meant to check. Yeah, my wrists are too sore right now to check, but I meant to check if the developers had other games. I will be doing that later. Because I remember seeing some reviews mention at least one other game that they had made previously. Um, but yeah, so the which I think was also popular from what I recall. Anyway, yes, I think that pretty well brings us to so yes. I can only say little about multiplayer. Didn't play for very long. Uh, so I don't know if the following is universal, or if the previous, if the it's possible that I was just, fortunate to find even one player, or unfortunate to only find one player. But when I played, um, we, I suppose I can't speak for the other player. I could not see the other player, and I don't think, and it's not like there were any graphical glitches anywhere else in the game, so I don't think it was a glitch. I wasn't hugely surprised that we were not both like physically in the same space, because how would you do that if a server can handle 20 players? Even if you can't handle very many players, it would be complete chaos. Like the levels are essentially made for one person at a time. But we were evidently racing at the same time. Um, and I mean, that other player was was very kind, because once they beat the level, there was it wrote on my screen that they asked to extend the playtime for the level. So evidently, if the other, if someone else doesn't do that, and you are not the first to reach the end of a level, I guess you can just move on to the next, even if you didn't, you know, um, or they move on. I don't really know. I figure you maybe move on together. I don't know, but I think I did see where it allowed to spectate. So I guess maybe through that you could see, but not while driving. I guess you can't see how the other player is doing. Uh, that is about it, right? It will say if you reset. And I don't think that was for my benefit, because I know I did it. But yeah, seemingly it wants other players to know if you reset. So just keep that in mind, in case you are nervous about, they might not be able to see. Although I guess once they've completed the level, maybe they enter spectator mode, because that's how it works in a lot of other games, certainly. So maybe they're sitting there tearing their hair out, regretting, you know, extending the, yeah. I'm joking. It's not. Sometimes I worry that I sound like I'm worried about things that I'm not really. I'm just trying to I'm trying to inject some jokes to make sure this doesn't get. I know that you don't have the, at least not on my screen anyway, the visuals of the game to help make it a little more than just words, words, words. But the let's see. I think that pretty well covers. So when I let's see. Yes, if you play a workshop level or a trackmogrified level, and that's also, I will admit, when I fire up the trackmogrify, I was like, okay, did I think I mentioned it, right? It might have been a while ago. So trackmogrify in this game, if you want to make a level, but you don't want to make a level, you don't want to have to learn the tools and all this because it is a legit level editor, it's, yeah, building a level from the ground up, basically. Which I also appreciate, like, in this sort of game, you can just focus on, well, I guess I don't know how much you have to do about backgrounds, but certainly, you can, something you can focus on is just not diminutive, but like you can focus purely on the challenges, where like 20 years ago I did build a couple levels. I don't think any of them were good enough to share, but yeah, like I sometimes doing that, building from the ground up is what I'm talking about. Sometimes wished that, because I wanted to do the stuff you interact with. I wasn't as interested in doing the big backgrounds and such, so yeah, that's where they, yeah. But yeah, Trackmogrify, I fired it up thinking I might as well. I wasn't sure. I think I had an idea of what to write, but I wasn't super happy with it. But it'll just say, oh, I mean, maybe you could start with this. There's a little bit of training wheels for, yeah, most things in the game, I guess. But yeah, so that if you wish to uh, yeah, you can see, oh, look, it works. It's, and maybe you're happy enough with the level, you can try again, and you can get, like, it had like a bunch, I don't know, a dozen prompts that you could just click on if you wanted, and if you're still making levels up. Again, I only did the one, but I could imagine, I think if my wrists didn't hurt so much, but I have to be very selective about what I use them on these days, and most of the time, if I'm in a video game, I'd rather be playing than making level. That's all. But yeah, the right, trying mode, right? You enter a sentence, you tell it to make it, and I think it was less than half a minute, and the level was completely made, and I could play it. Yeah, and I think, in fact, didn't it? I think when I told it make the level, it immediately put me in the level so that I could do a test drive immediately. And yeah, it's a fantastic tool. It really made something memorable there. But yeah, Trackmogrify, one level at a time. Workshop downloads, from what I recall, one level at a time. But if you are playing multiplayer or the arcade mode, you can, or campaign, once you've completed a level, unless it was the very last one, it'll take you to the next one. You can immediately go to, yeah, which I quite appreciate. And that's, again, yeah, okay, that's it. I really worry that this is gonna sound like I'm just like praising this for nothing. I realize that in games, very frequently, one level leads into the next. I'm just saying, I've played my share where, if you're, yeah, for like campaign story, yes, it'll automatically go into, and yeah, I think okay, there are a number of multiplayer games where they do, but it's not all of them. I played a bunch where, like, I remember, listen, I remember the 90s. I remember being like, okay, is everybody happy with how much we played this level? Want to do a different level? Okay. Who's hosting again? Who has to go in and find another level and then start up the server again? Like, it wasn't always this way. I don't play very much multiplayer anymore. Maybe today it is just the norm, but and I suppose also just the fact that the let's see, like certainly the thing of the arcade modes, the fact that it just immediately takes you to the next level. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've played a lot of games where once you're playing stuff that's not the main story, yeah, you play one level and then you exit that level and start up a different level. You can't just go directly from one level to the next. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's a game where you don't have to sit still very much at all. It's also a game where sometimes failure looks really, really cool. I have, you know, in these games, I have died 1,000 deaths over, yeah, 3 decades. It's extremely rare that when I do, not that I died 1,000 times in this, but when I do die once, seeing Earth from orbit, and in fact, basically plummeting seemingly towards Earth, although there is like a boundary that you don't literally plummet all the way to Earth from orbit. That would take too long. Um, that is also a thing I appreciate in this. Like you'll know that I suppose that is another platformer and other games also. In this game, you'll know almost immediately if you screwed up something, and even if you have to reset. Like I was never like sitting there just waiting for something to happen, and then it didn't, and eventually I played reset or prayed retet. But yeah, the this is really cool because yeah, you one of the places you are in this game is this facility in orbit, and some of the time you can see Earth um, beneath you, and that also does have an impact on you. Like literally, obviously, we know it's not reality; it's not the actual Earth, but just like I already mentioned, it makes you feel like you are the only one who can save Earth, and there's a lot of games where that's true, but in this, you actually get to see it from out there, like, and it feels like almost like I got this sense that like I can't go back there, or at least I can't stay there for very long until I have completed this game. My character can't uh, go back before, and he has to go back. Kate? Yeah, I think that pretty well. Yeah, so the additional modes. Gonna briefly, I mean, I already noted the one that's, I'm afraid I don't remember what it's called, but there's the one that's really short, you know. Pretty much said everything that I wanted to. Right, I appreciate about that. I think it was the very first one was actually not super difficult. And then the second one, I was like, oh, I guess, oh, I think, yeah, let's see. I think I ran out of time. I feel confident that I will get through it, but no, they were like, okay, see how short a level is? It's okay. And then with the second one, it's like, okay, now that you know that a level is short in this game, now you got to do this without, any checkpoints. Let's see. There is also a mode that is specifically for doing stunts, and I didn't seem like well, let's see. Is it that I wasn't quite good enough, or just, I don't know. I think just doing stunts. Okay. Yes. Something I appreciate about the stunt mode is that it seemed, as best I could tell, pretty much like it's either completely safe or close to it. So you can just genuinely, like, it works. It seems to be designed and work well for just saying, okay, you have the, what's the word? You want to do stunts, here you go. And there's also, I only played one level. I forget if there were more than one. But yeah, it's a good place to just practice. And ultimately, I was not that, I'm glad it's there. I'm really glad. It's not really for me. I didn't play for very long, but I did try to, see, okay, so how long can I wall ride? Because that's something it keeps track of, But if you fall from if you're driving on the ceiling and then you fall, I'm not sure it's like definitive, but certainly I saw that sometimes you land in water, and thankfully the car can drive underwater because it can do every single cool thing that you might think is like literally okay. Just Cause 3 lets you do more things, like just by virtue of the fact that you get to like shoot and go between a lot of different vehicles, where in this it's a car. I'm I love both of these games about equally. I think I can't really place one of them as like, okay, that's, and I did not think that was going to happen anytime soon. Because Just Cause is one of my favorite. As okay, by using deductive reasoning and transitive logic, you should now be able to figure out if this is also one of my favorite games. But yeah, I think, yeah. So you land in water, and then you just, you sink down to the ground, and then you can drive out of the water, And let's see, I think there was also water at the very top of the level, which is just wonderfully, like, I don't even know how that's supposed to work, man. Like, holy crap. Like, listen, I get that the car can mess with, can I guess respond to gravity, not really mess with, but how the water is upside down and still, like, just, yeah. Um, but yeah, it's a really great thing for that. And then you have levels that are like the main campaign, And let's see, I'm not 100% sure which is which, but in at least one of these, there were are they called ghost replays? I don't play quite enough racing games to, I guess it's just been so long since I played a racing game, but yeah, I remember them from other games. But yes, you can see the outline. You can't interact with. You can't like run into the car, but you can see, like, okay, that's, when someone else was doing a really, you know good or even better job. That's what it looked like. So that's something you can try to, like, emulate. And I think that might just about cover. I feel like there's something left that I wanted to. Right. So yes, the arcade, the mode that is reminiscent of um, campaign is basically, in order to, at the start. Uh, right now I actually forget if you have to complete them in order, but there's like is it 11 levels, and if you want to play past those, you have to get at least 10 medals. And in each of these levels, in this arcade mode, this one of the arcade modes, you can get bronze, silver, and gold. in any one of these levels. So yeah, you don't have to get a medal in every single one of these first, 10 or 11 or however many. But yeah, you do have to, and there is, of course, a Steam achievement for, let's see, there's one for bronze, one for silver, one for gold, and let's see, yeah, that is a good way to encourage, you know, because like, listen, if you see the second set of levels and it says, oh, you need 10 medals, and you have like 9, it's like, I could probably, or if you've only, like, I think the first time I checked was after I completed one level and I got a medal, and I looked, oh, well, that's, yeah, so I basically, if I get bronze on every single one of these, I can do the next set of levels, so, and I right now, I'm not entirely sure if there's 15 of, if you do have to get more than bronze in order to get to the because the second set you have to unlock is 25 medals, and I saw there was at least one where it's 100 medals, so and I am probably not gonna like go completely, like, if I get to a point where it's like, well, the only way to proceed is for you to get like silver and gold in a bunch of these. Like, so far I've gotten silver in one of them and bronze in like 6 or 7 or something. But which are the ones I've tried. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna obsess over it. And I don't say that because I don't ever obsess over stuff in games. Right now, I am obsessing over getting all of the challenges in, yeah, uh, Hitman 2016. But yeah, so I think that brings. Oh wait, there was one more thing about the medals. What was it? Right, I did see at least one reviewer on Steam note that they got really into, like, they wanted to shear just a second or two off their time so they could get the next medal. And I totally get that, and that's also that is part of the appeal of a lot of racing games and similar. Uh, if yeah, it's not necessarily the kind of thing that I personally get too much into, but I'm glad it's there for the people that it's there for. It's not a game that just like forgets either platformer fans or racing game fans. Let's see. I think that pretty well covers. So yeah. As you can probably tell, it has replayability. And also they do this really great thing where during playing a campaign or when you work your way through some of the arcade modes, there's a percentage counter of how much you've completed. So it's like, so like, yeah, completing some and then seeing, oh, I completed that many percentages already. I can do the rest of the game then. It's just, it's a subtle psychological thing. And that I do. Okay, so I've said some things in this video where it's like, well, every game like that has that. Okay, listen, there's a lot of games where I wish it would tell you how far into it you are, and some of them, for some games, I get it. I'm not saying all games have to. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't mind if like every game had the option. Like, just have it be that in the options menu you can toggle on and off, it telling you how many percent through you are, I think that might, yeah. The huh. Is that, I feel like there's one more thing I wanted to say. Let's see. Uh, yeah, so the levels for multiplayer are as incredibly well designed as the ones for single player. And yeah, like you get a sense of the world from just, the these backgrounds and such. And let's see. Yeah, they do a really great job keeping the puzzles, the jumping puzzles, varied. I was very impressed by it. Like they don't really, what's the word? They don't play any one note uh, too much, even though some of the notes are just phenomenal. There was like one point in this where I was like, they're doing this particular puzzle kind of a lot, and like literally pretty much immediately after. Like I know the game can't literally read minds, but the developer, yeah, I can imagine. I don't know if maybe someone in early access was like, I think it's a little bit much. Maybe if you cut it off there and they listen to feedback, or if they just really have a strong sense of where it gets to be too much, or if they themselves playing it realized. But yeah, like, and as soon as I was past that part, I was like, it was actually pretty cool that they kept just doing that thing over and over, because it was a very challenging kind of puzzle, which was also part of why in my mind I was like, how much longer is this? Yeah. Right. For those who don't know, currently I can pretty much just play 11 minutes in a row of a video game, and then I need a 6-hour break before I can play again. So it's important to me to get to the end, unless it's something where I feel like, okay, I can do this the next time. That's fine. Uh, yeah, I think that covers everything. Okay, so I guess at this point it's not even really going to be a surprise. So I'll just, yeah. I rate this 10 just unbelievably refined, fast-paced platforming parkour experiences that really got me into the story through, like, like there's a, despite, I guess I'll say the player character doesn't like talk much, which is in a lot of games part of how you get into, you know um and you see the back of the car, you don't see like a face or something. With like a lot to do after you've completed the main campaign, out of 10.